Let's take a look at some information charts on Dash for Brave New Coin. Dash is a proof of work, proof of stake hybrid chain. It's got a treasury, it's got private transactions, it's got masternodes. It also has governance proposals. We'll take a look at all that stuff. First, start with the governance proposals, which are, I guess, decentralized as they can be, but anybody can vote on them. Budgets attached, what exactly that entails as far as each proposal. You can read into all of that, should you so choose, but I like, maybe I'm in the minority here, but I like this for a treasury. A few other coins that do this, I don't see a problem with it. It's better than the devs asking for donations. This is mostly marketing from what I can gather. A lot of these proposals mostly involve marketing, with a few that are development related, but I don't hate it, certainly. Hash rate and difficulty on the proof of work side of things has declined pretty considerably since mid-2020. If this were a pure proof of work chain, that would be more detrimental to the health of the chain. Considering it's half and half, it's not as big of a deal, but you definitely don't want to see hash rates continuing to decline over time, because then you get issues like BSV, for example, that just experienced a 100 block reorg, which means all those transactions, 500 and something thousand of them, got erased, deleted, shuffled around. It's not a blockchain if it doesn't work properly. So you don't want to see just continual declines in a proof of work chain hash rate. That is not good for the chain. That does not promote decentralization, trust, all the good things we look to in BTC. Dash uses the X11 algorithm. These are the ASICs, no new ASICs since 2019. This is at 4 cents per kilowatt hour. Not a lot of these are super profitable at this point. My guess is if you're mining Dash, then it's GPUs or CPUs, and age of ASICs is certainly something to consider when you're looking at a hash rate chart, because if these ASICs once played a big role in the hash rate, and they just, their hardware, they have a life, shelf life, whatever you want to call it. Once that expires and there's no new ASICs to replace them, hash rate will just naturally decline over time, unless GPUs or CPUs pick up the slack. So nothing new in 2020 or 2021 on that front. If you look at the staking side of things, the proof of stake side of things, 46% of the chain is participating, which is pretty low in general for proof of stake coins. Usually it's 60% plus. EOS is like 80% plus. To run a masternode, you need 1,000 Dash, and the adjusted reward is less than 0.5% after inflation. So it's a hard ask, I think, unless you're just a long-term holder of Dash, to want to run a masternode when you can just get that yield on USDC or DAI in the DeFi ecosystem, at least currently, in its current form. So I can't see many people rushing out to make masternodes when there are better options available for people looking for some kind of yield. Here are the active masternodes. I think it's up slightly from last month. The old chart I was using for the historic masternode counts doesn't seem to be functional anymore or at the moment. So if you are a Dash person and have that available, let me know in the comments. Here's just a rough estimate over time. Since 2018, basically these masternode counts haven't really moved. It's been 4,000 to 5,000 at any given time. And if you see this jump up all of a sudden, that should have a positive effect on price because it's sucking supply out of the market. As with any proof of stake component, you're giving the coin a job other than buy and hold, other than buy low, sell high. Now, if you look at inflation amongst all the proof of work chains, Grin's at the highest at 39, Zeek next at 11, and then Dash down there at 5%, 5.2%. So it's in the middle of the scrum. It's not an outlier by any means. More than ETH. It certainly does less than ETH on a fundamental basis. More than Dash, or more than Doge, does more than Doge on a fundamental basis, I believe. Certainly more than BTC and Monero. So it does a lot of things, none of it well, I guess. Jack of all trades, master of none. As far as having DeFi or having yield options available, I don't know why transaction counts have basically gone to zero over the past few months. I don't know if that's an error or if that's a node issue. I have no idea. If you zoom way out, you can see all these stress tests they've done on the chain itself over time, these big spikes in transaction counts. But in general, it's not bullish to see transaction counts fall off a cliff like that, unless this data is incorrect. And average transaction values skyrocketing as transactions themselves are kind of halting, right? The fewer transactions you have, usually you see higher transaction sizes, and the more transactions you have, usually you see smaller transaction sizes. Private send transactions per day, according to -radar.com, are down slightly, but not anything super significant. And mixing transactions basically sideways. Not very many of them on any given day. This is the privacy component side of things for Dash. Easily traceable based on what companies like CipherTrace and Chainalysis, I never know how to say that, have come out and said, like, we can track this, it's no big deal. If you look at MVT for Dash, it has declined considerably, which as an inverse metric of economic utility suggests bullishness, especially when you zoom way out, it's basically an all-time low. Active addresses ranging pretty heavily, but down from their highs a few weeks ago, kind of sitting at multi-year lows, which is concerning. So again, I don't know if this is a node issue with Coinmetrics and how they're reading what's going on with Dash, or if Dash is just having some issues right now. But definitely not a good look to see active addresses and transaction counts falling off to that degree. If we look at MVRV, which is market cap over on-chain activity, realized market cap, anytime this has approached 2 in general for all chains, 2 or greater is usually the overbought conditions territory. And sure, this can go higher when MVRV is 2 in the fill in the background there. Price can go higher. But really, it's telling you be careful. And most recently, it got to 2.1 basically at $400 Dash, and that was enough to make this thing pull back pretty considerably. So I think in the future, if there isn't a multi-week, multi-month trend going on, and it's more of a speculative rotational trade, then I would look to MVRV first and say, okay, this thing hasn't been moving for years to the upside. It's just kind of been in this range for years and just starting to move up. That could indicate more of a non-organic, I call it non-organic because it's mostly speculation. This isn't like people rushing out to use Dash as a currency or anything. But this to me indicates more speculative related activity than on-chain related activity when it's extremely quick as far as the MVRV jumping up like that. Usually that's late cycle altcoin rotation type stuff. So where it sits right now, not exactly buy or sell. Historically, again, for any given coin, anything below 0.5 is usually in the buy zone, and it's currently at 0.88. So it doesn't really help you too much here at the moment. Dashcoin, Google Trends, along with everything else, is kind of down, and definitely not bullish on fundamentals when searches and new money interest is down. If Dash gets listed on Robinhood or something crazy, right, you're going to see this spike. But for the most part, I can't see a lot of people getting excited about Dash in its current form, unless it does something that's flavor of the month, like DeFi or NFTs or lending and borrowing. It has to continue to innovate. All of these projects do, to compete with the new kids on the block. Moving to technicals, we have the 5200 EMAs, yearly pivots, VPVR, RSI. This is on Polo. And it had a death cross basically near the bottom. It was definitely a bit late. Everything retraced kind of in a couple days, down 50% plus from the highs. So it's hard for the high time frame MAs to even react to that. But things are definitely bearish here on a trend metric basis because you have a death cross, prices below the 200-day moving average. The good thing is that once this cross completes to the upside, if it does, that is generally a good entry signal on balance for any coin or any chart. Just looking at Dash, you can see it's been in the sideways range for 2 years prior, and it had several golden crosses that went nowhere, right? You can't always expect this thing to take off on every golden cross or any coin to take off, but you just got to trust the process. You got to say, okay, now's the time to get bullish again. Maybe this goes 10, 20, 30, 400%. Maybe it doesn't, but that's telling you that it's okay to be long once this recrosses This did kind of dip into that $100 support. Tons of volume support from 70 to 100 on Polo, and a tiny volume, RSI bullish divergence here at the bottom as well. Definitely a little late on that now, but it's good to see those things to show that there was oversold conditions at the bottom there. It's in the middle of all of the yearly pivots for the most part, so looks like it found support currently on the R1, and upside again is probably limited to around 420 in the future for this year. If you look at the daily cloud, much like a lot of these altcoin charts, you're seeing extremely high mean reversion, 50% retracement potential, with either an edge-to-edge move from 150 to 300, basically, which is a 50% move. It's a 2x move. And you're waiting on a bullish TK cross, you're waiting on the price to get inside the cloud. Probably don't know until August, mid-August, early September, how bullish some of these altcoin charts actually are, but it's worth just putting them on some watch list, right? Everything that looks like this is increasingly getting more and more longable if this gets into the daily cloud, because there's such a high upside, right? It dropped so low so quick and then kind of stopped. It paints this 50% level on the way up from high to low. So it's definitely too early to be super bullish, I think, based on the cloud, but I definitely watch it closely. And you can also watch the 12-hour, which is going to show you this trade just in a different way. It's going to tell you to go long once we're above the 12-hour cloud with a bullish cloud. So it's almost there, but it's getting there. Again, by August 16th, I think we'll know pretty clearly across the board. It's unlikely that any of this stuff kind of moves by itself. It'll all probably move somewhat together, is my guess. On the BTC pair, it's kind of never really had a sustained move to the upside. 2015, 2016, it consolidated, then broke up. And ever since then, it's just been down, down, down. So it's hard to say with a straight face that Dash is a better hold over the long term than BTC. I mean, just look at the chart, right? High time frame trend wise, this is far from reversal. It doesn't have any patterns down here. It doesn't have anything down here. It's below resistance. There's no real redeeming qualities about Dash against BTC that I can see anyway. So I don't know if this continues bleeding, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to just magically shoot up to 0.01 or anything like that in the near term. And Dash against ETH has only been down since this pair existed on Binance in 2017. So I don't hate Dash, unlike a lot of other altcoins. It just it doesn't do anything super particularly well. It has something for everybody. It just doesn't have a history of performing well against BTC or ETH. Technicals for Dash in the near term in the next month look like they may attempt a mean reversion along with everything else, which would basically be a 2x from here on the USD side of things. But there's not a lot of eyeballs or excitement around Dash that I can see. Lastly, I'll just mention the ETH-BTC fund and DeFi portfolio I trade for Techemy Capital on Enzyme.finance, non-custodial portfolio management tool, where you can send ETH to USDC and watch what I'm doing, You can see allocations, AUM, performance, all this sort of stuff. Sometimes the site is down temporarily, and I just go to Xerion. You can type in Techemy Capital, and both of these will pop up. So that's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.